Hi boys and girls, and welcome back to the farm. Today we are going to be exploring bogs. Now, if you've got old-fashioned ideas about bogs being dreary and dull, prepare to have your eyes opened. You are about to enter the real bog world. That is a world full of colour, striking colours, spectacular wildlife and fascinating plants. Let's have a look.
Peat bogs are not lifeless places. Look closely and listen, and you will become aware of a rich and vibrant environment, full of life and colour, textures, smells and tastes.
So boys and girls, one of the coolest plants perhaps in a bog is this, sphagnum moss. Now I'm going to film it for a while I explain to you just how cool it is.
Sphagnum is a botanical equivalent of a sponge, absorbing water and nutrients through the surfaces of its leaves. The leaves are arranged along branches that occur in bunches along a simple stem. With a microscope, it is possible to see that much of the leaf consists of cells like water storage flasks, while the chlorophyll is squeezed into cells like little thin strands. For such a plant to survive, conditions must be suitably damp throughout the year for these cells to be kept topped up. Sphagnum can actually hold up to 20 times its own weight in water. This, together with its unique sterile property, make it useful as wound dressings in the First World War. It's been also used in the past for nappies and cot bedding. Peat bogs occur where waterlogged conditions slow down the decomposition process, leading to a gradual build-up of dead organic material. Under these conditions, this plant, sphagnum, grows.
This plant, boys and girls, is a sundew. The sundew is exceptionally cool. I've had to bring you a picture to show you because we don't get them at this time of year. They're more of a summer plant. They are so cool because they are carnivorous. That means they eat meat. How they work is that the little sticky bits that you can see attract bugs. The bugs land on the plant and the plant gobbles them up. So a carnivorous plant in the bog. What more would you want?
Amongst the sphagnum, there are a variety of very interesting plants which have adapted to life in extreme conditions. Several species of plants have developed the ability to trap and eat insects as a means of supplementing their meagre diet. I've already told you about the sundew. There's also another one, the butterwort, which has sticky leaves which they use to trap unsuspecting insects, which then slowly decompose, releasing much needed nutrients for the plant. Cool. Through the soft carpet of sphagnum, you will also find bright splashes of colour from heaths and heathers, fuchsia pinks and ruby reds, the delicate white and pink frothy flower of the bog bean, and the white rose-like flower of the cloudberry, with its scarlet or orange fruit. The bog asphodel adds splashes of bright yellow. Its scientific name means bone breaker, and this arose from the belief that the plant caused the bones of grazing sheep to go brittle, but in fact, all bog plants are so low in calcium. Therefore, the bog asphodel actually doesn't deserve this reputation. The heather plays a host to a fungus which breaks down decaying plant material into vital nutrients which allows it to thrive. Bog myrtle, a sweet-scented shrub, forms a partnership with bacteria in its roots to obtain extra nitrogen. It has been used to ward off midges too. Common bog cotton uses a snorkel technique, relying on air-filled cells in its roots and leaf bases to survive the oxygen-poor environment below the layers of sphagnum. A family of tiny, brilliantly coloured jewel beetles use these air spaces as living quarters. Even in winter, the bog, as you can see, is alive with colour. Look closely at the lichens and mosses and you will find shades of nearly every colour you could imagine. Fantastic! Now it's not just cool plants that you might find in the bogs. There's also cool mammals. For example, the red deer, the largest land mammal in Britain today, can be found wallowing in peat baths to rid themselves of flies and parasites. They will graze on a variety of bog plants and will in fact even be seen eating frogs as they need the calcium for bone and antler growth. Otters and badgers occasionally venture out into the bogs in search of the eggs and chick of ground nesting birds, water voles and frogs. You may, if you're lucky, also see our famous pine martens, hares, stoats and weasels. And if you were in the Highland areas, if you were really lucky, you may even see occasional wildcats. Bats will fly in from their roost sites in the evening, travelling as much as a mile to the peat bogs to feed on the many flying insects, including the midgie. The song of the skylarks and meadow pipits provide a constant background noise on these boglands. These birds thrive on a variety of insects and seeds. You may also hear the sad wheep of the golden plover, the drumming of snipe, the trill of a dunlin, or the mournful cry of a red-throated diver caterwauling in the evening sunset. This eerie flight call gives its local name of rain goose, since people associate it with wet weather. Divers are also known as loons, based on the Scandinavian word for clumsy, due to their awkwardness on land. They arrive at their breeding grounds in April or May after spending the winter at sea. What an amazingly cool place bogs are. We also have an abundance of amphibians such as newts, frogs and toads. They all thrive really well in a bog environment as there has an abundance of insect life for them to eat. Also reptiles like adders and lizards love peat bogs.
So as I mentioned at the start of the film, the colours in a bog are so striking you would never believe it unless you've seen it with your own eyes. So I'm going to let you see now just how bright and exciting the colours can be. Certainly not drab or dreary. So these amazing bogs are actually a whole little ecosystem habitat all at once. As I mentioned at the start of the film, we get some spectacular wildlife in bogs too. Now we're going to go back to the barn in a minute and have a go at making a food web and a food chain based on what animals and creatures we might find in a bog or around the bog area.
Boys and girls, what I've constructed on the coffee table here is a simple food web. Now what a food web tells us is the flow of energy between living things in a small ecosystem. So we were just in the bog ecosystem and these creatures would all appear around a bog. Of course, as we know, all food webs and chains start with the sun. And each time you see an arrow, that demonstrates a flow of energy. So the arrow actually means is eaten by. So if we scroll back out to the full food web, it's possible to see who is eating who. For example, the vole is eaten by the fox. The lizards are eaten by the adder. And as you can see, if we look carefully at the food web we've created, we can see just how important each separate species would be. Now, from a simple food web like we've got here, we can start to create food chains. So we could take small areas of our food web and create a simple food chain. Let's try that now. All food chains and webs begin with the sun. That provides the energy for lots of living things. So if we follow the food chain here, we have the sun giving energy to, or is eaten by if you like, the bog plants. The bog plants are eaten by or give energy to the hare, and then the hare is eaten by or gives energy to the fox. So as you can see from this simple food chain and food webs, all living things have a place in an ecosystem.
I've had a lovely time exploring bogs with you boys and girls. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye!